All right, boys, let's rock and roll. Right. Hi, welcome to Control Talk Now for the week ending October 18th, 2015. My name is Eric Stromquist, and this is Control Talk Now, your Smart Buildings VideoCast and Podcast, where we talk about smart building controls and HVAC controls and everything controls. But what would the show be? What would the show be without the man, the myth, the legend, the one, the only Kenny Smyers from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He's back in Pittsburgh Black. Kenny, welcome to the show, big dog.
Is that AC/DC I hear in the background? That's nice. Thank you. It's always fun to be here, Eric. I tell you what, I tried not to smile, but I couldn't suppress it. When you go into the man, the myth thing, I don't know. There's something about that. It's magical. Thank you.
Well, it is kind of magical, Kenny. It is. And you know what? It's good to be back, man. So listen, I was thinking about it this week. I'm really sort of embarrassed, and I think we're always trying to improve, and I think anytime you try to improve like that, man, sometimes you're going to make mistakes and big mess ups. I want to profusely apologize to our listeners and viewers who endured my absolutely awful audio last week. If you watched the show or listened to the podcast, Kenny and I had all kinds of technical difficulties, and we wound up having to change the setup 2 or 3 times, and along the way I missed my setup with the new mixer, and so again, my apologies for that. Hopefully this week will be a lot better, and we got a special treat coming on in a few minutes that's going to hopefully make up for all that. But so Kenny, what's going on with you, big dog?
Well, Eric, the thing you're saying about the challenges we're facing, that's called technology. And once it gets mastered, it's no longer even regarded as technology. It's common usage. So it's applied technologies where you do try a lot of different things, and I know I appreciate it. And if people could see the setup you got, they'd appreciate the complexity. And one little snafu, and you go down, and then you're always fun to work your confidence back up. Then you then you threw the whole damn thing down and said, okay, we're going back to basics. So,
oh yeah, well you've been there when I've taken pretty expensive equipment and thrown it across the room on camera. You've witnessed that. So
I sure have.
I try to stay under control, but I tell you, when you spend like I say, a whole weekend getting everything just perfect, and then all of a sudden it just goes kafooey. It is very frustrating.
Well, you even got a menu. You want that with or without coffee stains on the wall?
Nice.
All right.
Well, Kenny, I tell you, we got a really great show this week. As you know, we've talked about in the past, October and September sort of been conference month, and huge conferences going on. Honeywell Momentum. You and I were over in Paris covering the EZIO conference. KMC had a big conference. Mark Peacock and Linkspring has their partners conference coming up next week, which I'll be actually week after next, which I'll be attending. Belimo has their Putnam sponsor meeting this week, and I really hate to do this, man. It's really rough, man. Belimo makes it tough on you. So this one's in Aruba, and I tell you, Belimo's got it right, man. They have a couple of minimal business meetings. The wives and families are invited. So my wife has no idea what I do, but every night I come home, she wants to know if I've sold any Belimo stuff because she wants to go on the trip to Aruba. So we'll be there in Aruba next week, and we'll get a whole new set of technical difficulties, Kenny, because we'll have to record the show from Aruba next week. You'll be in Pittsburgh, and I'll be in Aruba. So,
well, we've done that before. You were on the beach last time.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember your brother was there. Tommy was there. Yeah.
Appearance there. I remember that.
So it's good stuff. Well,
Eric, the thing about these meetings, I remember once we had a post. Clint put a post up. Trade shows, can't live with them, can't live without them. The expense, the cost. But I'll tell you what, I don't even think they call them trade shows anymore. These are collaboration meetings, and it's like the EZIO, the Momentum, the KMC, and this is massive dissemination to the partners in a very quick business format with that social element that makes it really worthwhile. So, but I think what the great work that Rob Allen did, and our ability to parse that information from not being there was incredible, because we're talking about a collaboration effort. I think we're seeing more and more that social dynamic. We talk about the trends in social media. Well, collaboration. I've never seen more people share more information to get things done, and the effect it has. So I think even though the meetings are all over the world, literally, the information is still consistent, and buildings is our common denomination, our common currency, our common language. So it's really it was a great month, September, and October is going to finish strong. Like you said, you're off to Aruba with Belimo, Lake Spring. I know Mark Peacock. He's jamming. He's very busy. I had some email communications with him. Mike Marston's back at it again. He's over in another part of the world. I had some email transactions.
He keeps saying he's going to do another Mike Marston's BAS Control Pub Talk, but I can't wait for that, because I tell you, if you ever get the experience with Mike Marston anywhere in the world, just get him to take you to a pub. Mike knows no strangers, so hopefully we'll get that show going. And Kenny, listen, a special thanks. I was checking the stats on YouTube. We're probably going to hit 1 million views on YouTube here later in the month, and I didn't realize we have over 2,500 subscribers on YouTube. So special thanks to our YouTube subscribers. We really appreciate that. And I tell you what, you mentioned a name. You mentioned a name, Kenny, and we call him our young gun. His name is Rob Allen, and our special treat this week, our very, very special surprise, and I'll give Rob a little bit of this too, is Rob Allen from 7 Minutes in Control. Hey, Rob.
What's going on?
Welcome to the show, big dog.
Can't help but bob your head to that, right?
He's on that AC/DC song. We have to put some.
No. That's not AC/DC. That's my. That would be against the rules. We can't do that. No. That is me banging on some drums.
Nice.
And my son Axel is 3 months. He's playing a little guitar there. So
Nice.
Awesome. Very cool.
Yeah, because Kenny, that's against the rules.
I know YouTube will drop you there. Hey, Rob, what's happening, man?
What's going on? How's it going, Mr. Smyers?
Tell you, I just wanted to compliment you on those great those great interviews. I mean, Eric and I, we always talk about sustaining the control trends. How are we going to do it? And I'll tell you what, you look like you're getting ready to shove one of us off the table. I feel like we're in the NFL announcers booth, and there's only room for two guys, and competition makes everybody a little bit better, huh?
Every time I walk behind you guys, I just feel like I'm walking in steps of greatness.
Well, I don't know. Monday Night Football usually has three, don't they? Don't you remember Howard Cosell, Dandy Don, and Frank Gifford, right?
I'm like the David Pollock of game day. They only let him on just a little bit, and then he comes on, does his thing, and then Herb Street kicks him back off and whatever. And so, no, you guys do awesome. And anytime you let me be a part of it, I appreciate it, and learned a lot, and it's been good, and getting a little bit more comfortable asking for people to get on the side of the camera with me. Once I get them there, it's good. But, Eric and Kenny have got that way of coercing people to get on camera.
I learned from the master, Eric Stromquist, because I was as shy as a dandelion and strong sunlight there. I didn't understand how you have to keep thinking the thought ahead of everybody and kind of know what you're going to say next. I always would be frozen, what am I going to say now? I don't know. But no, I thought that.
Well, hang on real quick. And I got to tell you a story on that. So I kind of got started with that because I have all these vendors who want to do product demos for me. And if those of you who know me, I'm kind of ADD, right? I like to be doing something. So, and most product demos, no offense to anybody intended, are kind of boring, PowerPoints and stuff like that. So once I started ControlTrends, I realized I had a great deterrent from having to sit through presentations, which is I'd say, oh, that's great. Let me get my camera so we can film that.
How'd that work?
Oh, it worked great. For a while, they would just go, hey, look, actually, I realized I got another appointment. Can I just leave you some literature? I said, absolutely, not a problem. But now, Kenny, it's like, believe it or not, they want to be on camera because I think the exposure they're getting through ControlTrends and our worldwide controls audience, which want to thank everybody in all the countries that tune in regularly to ControlTrends. I think they realize it's a unique opportunity to be able to be found by people not just in the U.S. or Canada, but all around the world. And,
you're absolutely right. It's been sort of a treat the last couple of conferences where instead of me going up to people are coming up to me, and once they see me in the camera and see that you guys aren't there, they assume second string's in, and so they come up and start asking, and it's pretty neat.
So I'll tell you what we're going to do today. We're going to have a little bit different format. So first off, Rob, Ken and I are going to interview you about the Honeywell Momentum Conference and the KMC Conference. And then when we're done with that, you're going to interview Ken and myself about the KMC Conference. How about that?
Perfect.
That work for you, Kenny?
Sure. I'm pretty well schooled, even though I wasn't there, because, like I say, I watched the videos, and just to kind of emphasize what a video does, the social dynamic and the way we learn and the way we understand, the way we transfer information, we're finding out that it was absent from our industry. A lot of other industries, they do that automatically, create a video, and of course YouTube brought a lot around, but now we're seeing that those video are getting hit for various reasons. I think some of the competitors, hey, what's our competitors doing? They watch the videos and then they say we better get going here. But I think it's going to be we're just touching we're just the first wave onto the beach. By the time you get those the Google glasses and all the other things we talked about with all the interactive technology out there, video and putting eyes on the street, putting eyes in the meetings, being part of it remotely, we're just scratching the surface. So it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger.
Agreed. Well, okay. So our first guest, as we mentioned, is Rob Allen from 7 Minutes in Control. Rob, you were out at the Honeywell Momentum Conference. Buddy, tell us, what do you think of the conference? How was it? What were some of your takeaways?
Well, Honeywell always does it really good, and this time was no different. Took us out to Palm Springs, which was actually the conference is in Palm Desert. Super nice hotel. The gist of the conference was N4 release and then their LCBS stuff. And it was pretty neat. Honeywell told us probably about 3 or 4 months ago that they were going to release Niagara 4 at the same time that Tritium did. And they definitely lived up to that, which I was a little skeptical at first because it just seemed like a pretty daunting task. But there's some things that are a little new that people wanted to have questions about, and they did a super good job about answering those and getting us up to speed. I think the one thing that we're still going to have a lot of kicking around to do is the licensing for the JACEs. But it sounds like they've been taking that feedback back really well, and we'll get there. And then I just can't wait for LCBS. I think that's going to be pretty neat stuff.
Well, Rob, I went through the agenda here and I saw that, like you said, they had the golf that you got to do out there, and it was just a beautiful location. But I think what Honeywell did, they started out with some really deep dive into cybersecurity, why it matters. Technology starts here, and then they went into sales and then business. So there were several different tracks. Which track were you on?
So I took the opportunity to mix it up just a little bit. I did the sales stuff. I actually got a chance to speak out there, which I thought was pretty neat. I got to do one of the breakout sessions. And so that was an honor for me, and I spoke about marketing and how to diversify yourself from a distributor standpoint, and then the guy that did it along with me did it from the contractor standpoint. So obviously pubbed ControlTalk Now, ControlTrends a lot, and everybody will like to hear a lot about that, and it's kind of neat because every time that I go to these things, whether I'm teaching a class or a small presentation or something, I always ask the question, who's heard of ControlTrends? And I tell you, 2.5, 3 years ago, you'd get 10, 15% of the people raise their hand, and now we're completely the other way. 85% of the people are in there raising their hand and know who I am and come up, and I got to sign autographs and all that. But no, I'm just kidding.
Good stuff. Yeah. Well, I think I missed the. So the N4, if I got it right, we're talking now that we're going to be looking at a Webs 8000 series controller, and that's going to probably displace all the other Webs controllers, and also the licensing is a big thing. But what about the Spider tool? I mean, they got that ironed out. I think you had said in one of your interviews that you were very pleased that they've got the Spider tool up and running on N4.
Yeah. So the one thing that they said about the Spider was that they're going to quit trying to improve it. They've got a very stable platform at this juncture here, and so everything works with everything, and compatibility is the best it's ever been. So they're just going to leave it as it is now, and not trying to improve it anymore. And so that's good. And then the Spider tool, as we know, is embedded in the workbench, and so it does that as well. Now there's a lot of folks that are kind of angling for a standalone Spider tool, and that's yet to be seen if the majority is going to win on that or what. I actually don't know what the majority is. I know that in our area, people would like to see that standalone tool, but maybe in other parts of the country, not so much. So I know that Honeywell's taking that feedback, and then they're going to decide what they're going to do. But yeah, stable platform, everything works great. Got to see some good demos, and the graphics look good. It's awesome.
Very, very cool, guys. And I tell you what, the hospitality, Honeywell just does a great job with that, right, Rob? You were telling me a story about meeting sort of a famous person on the golf course. Will you tell that story for us?
So we're lining up in the they do the scrambled golf tournament. So there's 30, 40, 50 golf carts out there. And so I'm just standing there eating a power bar or something. And I look at going up the stairs. I said, that guy looks just like Joe Theismann. And so I just said, oh, you must just be staying out here and whatever. That was kind of neat. And he kind of nodded at me and waved, and that was it. Well, then we get about 4 or 5 holes in, and this golf cart's, coming the wrong direction, coming at us. And I'm assuming it's a Ranger or something like that. And out jumps Joe Theismann and comes up to me and says, hey, I'm Joe Theismann. And the only thing I could muster up to say back was, I know. And so he shook his hand real quick, and he said that, would it mind if I hit a ball, if he hit a ball with us? And, of course, we obliged. And he pulled out a wedge. They're about 150 yards away. And this big burly guy crushes this wedge about 150 yards, pin high, 6 feet to the left, and then goes up and drains his birdie putt. And then he decides to play one more. And so we tees off on the next hole. And I'm sure it was close to 300, but it was right down the middle. And perfect. I said, all right, kickoff's in 20 minutes, folks. I got to see you later. And so that was it. And that was the end of Joe Theismann until I found out that he was actually our keynote speaker, and told a really good story. And before we got to meet him, all of the folks that spoke at the breakout sessions got to go meet him, and for an hour, and just kind of a Q&A session, whatever. Instantly vaulted from, he was a kind of a guy that I knew of a little bit before my era, and seen him on Fox and ESPN a few times, whatever. But that guy is just about as cool as it gets. And talked to him for a super long time, gave an incredible keynote. And then if that wasn't enough, I went to the Redskins-Falcons game last weekend, and I'm leaving the game, and here comes Theismann.
Wow.
And so I go, hey, man, good to see you again. I just saw you out in Palm Springs. And I don't think he recognized me, but he knew what I was referencing and turned around and laughed. And he goes, how crazy is that? Now, we were in, it was after the game, so there's thousands of people walking, but walked right past me again. I just thought that was just
Ooh, that's
pretty
synchronicity
neat.
there.
Yeah, it was cool.
You better use his number. What was he, number 7? I remember Joe Theismann and that LT, Lawrence Taylor. Oh, my gosh, was that something? I'll never forget the image there. But he had, I used to live in D.C., and he had the Joe Theismann bar, and I was with these, I used to room dog with a bunch of Marines and Air Force guys and Army guys. They used to go into Joe Theismann's bar and boo the Redskins, and I used to say, that's not cool, because, they were looking for trouble. But anyhow, he was a hell of a quarterback. I mean, he's one of the fastest guys. The Redskins had Riggins and Joe Theismann. I believe both of them ran 100-yard dashes in the 9.7s, 9.8s.
Wow. Theismann ran that fast. I never ran a million or any of those guys. I can't believe that.
Riggins, actually, he broke Gale Sayers' track record at Kansas.
Wow.
John Riggins was a sprinter. But Joe Theismann, he first came to the NFL. He came out of the Canadian Football League. He was returning punts and kickoffs for the Redskins. He was a specialty teams player. He's an amazing athlete. So it's good to hear, Rob. So what happened after the socialization? What was your big takeaway? What should we as distributors be concerned about with Honeywell's?
We're looking forward to.
Yeah, look forward to.
So I think for me, it's the Niagara 4 release, and LCBS. It's a close tie for us. I think in our market, we've always been looking for a good LCBS product. A little before my era in this industry, everybody said that Honeywell, had it locked up with their LCBS, and so there's been a little bit of a downturn in the last few years, probably right before I got back into the industry, or got into the industry, I should say. So I'm looking forward to that. I think that they've got it whipped. I think it's going to come out and be something that's useful. Now, it is interesting because it seems like a lot of folks have seen that market needs some attention, and so there's a lot of other players that are going to come out that are going to try and compete for that space. And so it's going to be interesting, for a distributor and contractor, as who kind of comes out on first.
Well, we don't want to take too much of your thunder because you're going to have to revisit this post a couple of times because of the interviews. But just wanted to kind of segue into the leveraging of resources. I know that you all have training coming up for the EEO program in Atlanta at the Stromquist building, the facility there in Atlanta. But tell us a little bit of a real quick segue into the EEO and the GES, the Global Engineering Services. Was that received very well?
I didn't talk too much about the Global Engineering Services, but that is definitely something that a few of our folks have used. It seems like it's useful for contractors just kind of getting fresh out of the gate that need a little bit of help and just want to make sure that they're meeting their spec and that type of stuff. And then also the big integrators that determine that they've got a lot of jobs all of a sudden at some point, and they can push some of it off to GES, and those guys will take care of them. So that's always been good. There's I didn't hear any good news on that. Maybe they're good or bad news on that at the conference. Maybe somebody else took that track, whatever. But I did get a chance to interview Jason Putnam with Noesis. And so that's pretty neat. So there's a EEO class. Me and Eric went to the one about a year and a half ago, and it was super well done. Got to meet Mark Jewell, and he talks for the first day. And I tell you, you just sit there in your hand cramps trying to keep up with all the notes and stuff that he gives you. And EEO is one of the neatest training sessions that I've been to. Super good. But now they've in growing the EEO program. They've partnered up with Noesis, and so Jason Putnam is the VP of Sales, and what their kind of take on it now is that they offer financing for energy projects. So it doesn't end there. That would be enough if you just go in and instead of telling the customer it's X amount of dollars, it's here's your payback, here's your X amount of monthly that you're going to owe us, and by the way, the energy savings is going to almost pay for that. That's cool in itself. But then these guys will actually, depending on what program you get, they'll actually go out and help you close a deal and help you talk to your customer and be a third party advocate for the energy product. And I think that's going to be a game changer for us.
We need to come back to that post because that's a really good post, and that's going to be our second to last post, I believe. But that's good stuff. And EO stands for, and I had to look it up because I forgot, but it's Honeywell's Energy and Environmental Optimization Program. So we'll talk the next, we'll have to kind of abruptly end that, or else we'll go into the next post, because you're going to go over that interview with Jason Putnam, because that's a very good interview. And you're right, they have some tools there that are very important, especially in this economy. I think we could transition into the next thing if you want, Eric, because...
Well, I tell you what, I want to get through the post, but I want Rob to ask us about EasyIO, because we only got we got a couple of things on EasyIO, but I think we'll cover Honeywell and KMC, which was just a kicking conference for you too, Rob. I think we'll cover that, but I want to go back and sort of revisit the Renaissance in Paris.
Yeah.
So,
hey, I just want to let you know, Eric, that Renaissance post is staggering. It is the statistics on that. It was the most watched post in a month ever. There was over 1,200 hits on that Renaissance post.
Well, I tell you what, and just so you know, all those EasyIO posts, the Renaissance post starts out with Kenny and myself down. We were out walking around in Paris one night, and we're down right in front of the Notre Dame, right, which is just so cool. And this happened last year to us as well. I mean, the big thing with those guys now is they like to do the marching band music, right? So you get a flavor for that. You got Notre Dame in the background. But then as Kenny and I were preparing for the EasyIO conference and sort of really getting our hands, Rob, around our mind around what was really going on there, it occurred to us, and Kenny and I both know that the Renaissance did start in Florence, not in Paris, but Paris had a lot to do with it. We had all these great thinkers there, and we sort of define Renaissance as when people get together and decide to do things differently than they've done them all along. And with the thinkers and the ideas and the concepts and the fact we had integrators from all around the world, it's like the Renaissance. So I think we had the Renaissance. I think probably 2 years from now it'll be the Revolution. And 2 years after that, or a year after that, be the Purge, right? Either you're on the bandwagon and up to date, or you're out. So, did you have a question? So ask the question. I just gave you the answer.
Yeah. So the really neat post on ControlTalk or ControlTrends, and I think that you guys have a little something to say about the Renaissance. So could you go into that a little bit and what the Renaissance was at the EasyIO conference? Okay,
so just hit the rewind button and go back about a minute and a half, and you should have that. Okay.
What other questions do you want me to ask?
Come on, Rob. That's not the way it works around here. I'm going to tell you, Rob, like I tell Kenny every week, there are no edits.
I think you're going to have a couple. Cool. So I guess you guys went out to Paris. Now, Paris, the only Paris I know is Paris, France. I know y'all weren't there. So tell me where you guys were.
No, that's where we were, Paris, France.
We were in Paris, France. Yep. Yeah.
Really? That's where the EasyIO conference was, in Paris, France, like the Eiffel Tower.
Well, let me tell you something, Rob. So one of the things that I really like about EasyIO is that, they do think globally. And I think that the world is shrinking, okay? And I think it's global. I mean, the fact that we got to meet so many integrators and other manufacturers from around the world, and you find out that there is sort of a convergence to like a common platform. And, a lot of other companies have presence in other countries, but they'll have different product offerings and things like that, or a different way to go to market. So EasyIO is very unique, I think, in that regard. And Mike Marston is the top of the list of the Renaissance man. And, Gordon Chin looked at people and say, let them eat beast from the East, right? But so
how do they structure their conference? Is it breakout sessions and general sessions and keynote speakers and all that kind of stuff, or what?
Well, we had to sign a confidentiality agreement about that because of the stuff they got us into. We can't get anybody in trouble, but no, it's they have a day where they just rocks and rolls. It's a ton of great technical information, presentations, really cool stuff, and everybody a product show at the same time. But what they do really well, a lot like Belimo and Honeywell apparently, is, boy, did they entertain you. So being in Paris, they booked the Lido, which is one of the most, right, Kenny, one of the most incredible shows you'll ever see in your life.
If we got any closer, we got injured because we were literally a tabletop away from the show, and they brought it was like a Las Vegas environment venue where they actually bring the floor up, and one of the events was the ice skating, and we literally got ice shavings came across landed right in front of our table from these incredible fabulous ice skaters that were obviously Olympic caliber. They had this incredible strength thing, this couple, this duo that did they did things I still can't believe you could do with one arm, and she supported him with her knee, and it was just extraordinary, and the dinner was great. But so it was first class entertainment. It's Las Vegas caliber, and it was right down from the Arc of Triomphe. So before we went into there, we actually walked down there and took a look at one of the most incredibly and well recognized memorial monuments in the world. So it was just how do you say that street again, Eric? Because I'll be darned if I can say it right.
The Champs-Élysées. Champs-Élysées.
Okay,
yeah.
I got you.
Yeah, that's how you say it.
Yeah.
Well, anyhow,
the Champs-Élysées.
Yeah, Champs-Élysées.
The McDonald's on the Champs-Élysées. Hey, but anyhow, Bob, they actually did have a very structured event. Hats off to Bulls Events, Guido Van Erp. Guido. We always say that wrong. And Johan Schackenrod, CEOs. He's EasyIO CEO of Europe, and they did a whole bunch of stuff. We had Qatar, Giannis Qatar of Nadon. He had some great products. InOcean's really big over there, and sensors, and then controllers, and then InOcean driver. EasyIO announced that they have an InOcean driver and the enhanced CPT tool with widget features, backdate updates. Scott Mitch from J2 Innovation did a marvelous presentation on the Easy Stack. And then, then of course, Mike Marston came out and did EasyIO's roadmap along with
So let's talk about
EasyIO. What's his name, Eric? The younger guy.
Tommy Hodgeness.
No, the guy from EasyIO that came over from Malaysia. I didn't.
SK Fu.
No, it wasn't SK Fu. He stayed back. Remember, he was in Pittsburgh. It was
I saw SK Fu there, buddy.
It wasn't SK Fu.
I can't believe you didn't see SK Fu, man. I've got him on video. Don't tell me SK Fu wasn't there.
I think I would put a $5 bill on it.
Let's just say hi to Tommy Hodgeness and Runar Soli and some of the crowd from Norway.
Okay. Terry Casey and Telestar, John Petsy Sky Foundry, the Belimo did a great presentation on the Belimo MP bus, and then Greystone Energy System. So those were the sponsors, and the Contemporary Controls. We had a great interview with a guy from Contemporary Controls, George Thomas's representatives. Which,
Kenny, by the way, I need to apologize to George Thomas and his representatives because I got part of the interview and then I accidentally turned the camera off. So that interview will not be coming out. But if you guys want to meet me in Paris, I'll be glad to recut the interview.
Sounds like I get a get out of jail free card now. So if I ever mess something up, I can go, you remember that one time?
It's been more than one time, Rob.
So I'm really interested in hearing about J2 Fin or J2 Innovations, I should say, and their Easy Stack. I got to meet Scott Minch again out at KMC, and I'll tell a story about that in a second. But these guys are taking off. I mean, J2 Innovations is in a lot of different stuff. They've teamed up with KMC. Now it seems like they teamed up with EZIO. So what's
Siemens?
Siemens? I didn't know that. So yeah, they're doing a lot of cool stuff. So what's Easy Stack?
Well, the Easy Stack is the stack is the whole concept of putting one great technology on top of the other. And IntelliStar was the one that really explained. Terry Casey was saying how he's been in the controls business, I believe, for over 40 years. He started several companies. One of them was still Honeywell bought him. Let's see here. Easy Stack,
Trend, right? He started Trend.
Well, he started Trend, and he also was the CEO of Tritium Europe,
right.
And he started another company too, and that was the one that was giving me trouble. But he is probably one of the most fun, most intelligent, most professorial intellects in our business, because he said that we had the theme of the Renaissance, and that was that this is a breakaway, this is the tipping point. 5 years we're going to look back, and one of the things you said, Eric, is you were on that bridge, the famous bridge, and you said, we're going to look back and say that 2015, right around this time period, we saw a surge in technology that tipped over and brought all these new technologies into stacks, and whether it was the tagging from Haystack, Project Haystack, or whether it's the Easy Stack or Fin Stack, but the stack concept, and we saw that with Dell, and we saw that with Daikin, where they had a stack too, where you had Wind River and the security company. They bought. Gosh, who'd they buy? And they put together a stack in a controller that IntelliStar sells. And the idea is that you compress all this technology and make it one controller becomes so much more formidable than having a group of controllers in a network. In other words, one controller now can do so much and push it out into the internet, the IoT. So Terry Casey said that the building IoT now is at the threshold of extraordinary change. And we will look back. Everybody agreed. John Petsy agreed too that this time period is where we really and truly are. The technology has been there, but the acceptance and the adoption rate was very slow, but that's changing. So Terry Casey went on record in an interview to say that he thought that this was, he's been in the business a long time, and in 25 years, this is the first major change was the actual implementation, the adoption and implementation of technology that's going to change the way building automation works. We're going to see a lot of redundancies go away, a lot of duplicities. We're going to see every controller is going to be smart. Every sensor is going to be smart, and that gives you incredible capabilities of control. You aggregate that information and use a program like Sky Foundry, SkySpark. You now can really and truly create massive, not just energy savings, but operational savings. You know the diagnostics are genuine. It's almost like having the ability to know what problem is going to happen before it happens. You actually get insight and predict your predictive codes now that you can actually prevent shutdowns, breakdowns. You can prevent going into peak demands, and you can really and truly control buildings by using these new controllers with these new stacks in them. So Easy Stack is one.
No, it's a fantastic product, Rob, to his point, and a special thanks to J2. They've come on as sponsors of the ControlTrends Awards this year, so we really appreciate that. And hey, sort of shifting gears a little bit, but want a special shout out to Chris Snyder from Down Under. Chris has got a software package that works with the EZIO and a lot of other stuff. It does pretty much everything, doesn't it, Kenny? But Chris came on as a sponsor too. But my point being, you'll get to meet Terry Casey. We'll be at the 2015 ControlTrends Awards in Orlando, as will Chris Snyder. So some of these folks from around the world will be converging on AHR and the 2015 ControlTrends Awards in Orlando. But Kenny, real quick, speak a bit about Chris's product, if you don't mind.
Well, Chris, the Open BCMS Building Controls Management System. He has a big background in computers. His father was a very successful building automation contractor. Down at the very basic level. And Chris, as he grew up in the business, became more and more disgruntled with the fact that none of these things merged and integrated, and they all were proprietary protocols. So he basically came up with a product using open source technology that is a software platform, and he can integrate just about everything, and he can do it simply. And it's a great product, and we'll be doing a feature on it real soon. Because as you mentioned, he's going to really make a move in the North American markets. Right now, he's in, basically Australia, but he's going to the different EZIO conferences. He met a lot of people there and networked, and he's having great success. A young guy that's entrepreneurial to the hilt. He believes in open systems, and he really truly has the brain power and he has the wherewithal to introduce a product that's becoming more and more successful.
And he was a young gun. Rob, wasn't he in your class of young guns last year at the ControlTrends Awards? Chris Snyder?
Yeah, absolutely. Got the chance to meet him out in Chicago, and super nice guy. He's one of those really bright, smart guys that I sometimes wish that I was a little bit brighter.
He kind of lives the dream a little bit. You know, he kind of reminds me of Tim Ferriss from the 4-Hour Workweek. This guy travels all around the world, man. He's got probably the speedboats, a beautiful girl in every port, just a cool dude, but very bright, very, very committed to what he does. It's nice to see somebody so passionate about what they do.
Well, doesn't he also have a Tesla? Weren't you guys reminiscing over your?
He has a Tesla boat. He actually took the engine out of his Tesla and put it in a boat. No, I think he does have a Tesla.
You're talking about Eric and his ADD. You saw that commercial that Tesla is self-driving now, and so he keeps going out and trying to get his Tesla to self-drive, and I keep trying to explain to Eric that it's not his car won't do that. So,
just won't work out. Well, Rob, any other questions about EasyIO? We can sort of wrap that up. We'll cycle back around.
I just want to say one thing about the summary. We got to meet the largest users and integration folks and contractors for the EasyIO FG32, and I was amazed by the massive deployment. Some of these guys actually had 4,000 controllers installed, and one of our tech sessions, these guys they really truly demand the flawless operation of a controller. I mean, they were talking about some of the heavier duty deployments where they have. What I learned there was that the controller is getting so much better because of the massive deployment, and everything that you can go wrong goes wrong and gets fixed. So that now what's happening is these guys were finally, like Rob said about a stabilized platform. When you get to there, that is an incredible achievement for anybody that's in doing software and hardware and putting together a controller that can live through all those applications and everything go wrong, every kind of hiccup, every kind of, whether it's somebody else's software, Adobe, HTML5, just whatever. They finally get into it. So EasyIO announced that they finally felt that they had kicked the tires on their controller long enough and hard enough that they really, really, really were comfortable with FG32, and now they're going to really go after applications.
Very cool. Very well said, Kenny. Very well said. Rob, anything else on EasyIO? I know we'll cycle back around a little bit more in the show on this.
No, I just love that company. I love their product. Mike Marston, he's definitely one of a kind, and I would like to see him up on stage entertaining a few hundred people and see what he's like doing that kind of stuff. I'm sure he's awesome.
I agree.
Really,
all right.
Really cool stuff.
Well, hey, before we sort of get into the post, more at a granular level, Rob, just a basic sort of overview of KMC conference, because you and Mike Bonner went out and covered that. Sort of general impressions of KMC, and then we'll dive deeper into them as we get into the post.
Yeah. So overviews is KMC. Richard Newberry was the main speaker, and one of the things that he wanted to hit home, and he did it in a very professional, non-derogatory way about his competition. So he wasn't purposely trying to put them down, but he just said, "Listen, here's the pros about KMC and our company. We're a smaller company in comparison to some of the other bigger manufacturers that are out there. And what he likes about that is that they have the ability to be agile and fast moving to changing market conditions." He said, we're a speedboat or a fishing boat, and the others are a big long cruise ship, and there's a lot of stuff that has to do that. And that kind of resonated with me, and then that was day one, hour one, into the general session that he mentioned that. And then they hit that home so many more times, and that company, has really got their ear to the ground. They know what people want, and then they go right back and they sketch it up on a board somewhere or do whatever it is that they have to do, and they come out with something. And the family portion of it, resonates with me. It seems like wherever I've worked, there's always been a family element, which I like, and I like to be a part of. And sitting there talking to Eric Kruder, and there's three gray-haired guys in the other room, and I said, "Now, who's that?" And Eric's like, "Oh, that's my dad, that's my uncle, and that's my other uncle who married my aunt, whatever." And so then I figured out how the Kehlers, came in, and the Kruders came in, and how that mixed together and stuff. And I just tell you, it was super neat. And I've got tons more to say, but I think that we're going to get into that here in the post.
Yeah, well, before we hit the first post, Kenny, I had the opportunity, Rob, to go visit KMC last Monday and to go up there, and it's very impressive. It's a beautiful part of the country, very small town. But what sort of impressed me is when you walk into the lobby, you got sets of pictures, 2 rows of sets of pictures. On the top, you have different products, Milestones products and on the bottom you got pictures of different people, like Joe Smith comes to work, and Eric Kehler has 20 years here or whatever. So they really honor their people, and in touring the facility and seeing their sort of state of the art equipment and just the care that they put in it it's kind of, to me, it's like the X factor almost. It's just something you can't put your hand on, but it's palatable, it. Yeah. So we're very pleased to handle the KMC product line, and I think those guys are going to do some great stuff.
Absolutely.
All right, Kenny Smyers, we got some stuff to get to this week. What will we have up first, big dog?
All right, Eric. Our first post was, will the KMC Commander be the Smart Buildings Controls game changer? And that's kind of an interesting question because of what y'all just had, kind of primed this whole, next post, and the next two posts are by KMC. And now we're going to dive into, actually, we talk about Richard Newberry in the interview that Rob did. And again, Rob, I'm not trying to blow smoke here. I'm just saying you really did a good job, because I wasn't at that I didn't have the opportunity to attend the KMC seminar, webinar, conference, but I do know much more about the KMC product line, their mentality, their philosophy, just by hearing your interview. So well done. Why don't you tell us about the KMC Commander and why that might be the Smart Buildings Controls game changer?
Absolutely. And, Richard Newberry, I want to go spend a week with him and go around, because either he's the luckiest guy in the world, or he's pretty top notch, and I definitely think it's the latter. So this guy had a vision along with the rest of the people in KMC, and he had the opportunity to lead that vision, and that was to go partner up with just a small company called Dell. And so he went in and told this really cool story about how he knocked on the door, went and did, essentially a cold call, if that even makes sense, if you go cold call Dell, but that's probably the best box to put it in. And so then he ends up, and after a few different tries, he gets a meeting, and then he gets a call back, and we did a presentation, and then they couldn't remember his name. And so the funny story is they called KMC's customer service number and said the guy with the black glasses that kind of looked pretty well put together and had some style to him. Do you know who that guy is? And they go, yeah, we're talking about Richard Newberry. Well, I need to talk to him. And It was one of Dell's bigger guys, and so that was just neat. It's like sometimes Eric and David dream big and say, Rob, go find this opportunity or go do this, and I go, man, I don't really know, but now that I see that Richard Newberry went out and teamed up with Dell, was pretty cool. And so I say all that to say that the Commander, timing was a little tough for KMC because they teamed up with Dell and Intel, and Dell basically had a gag order in on KMC for a big part of what Commander is and what it does, because Dell wasn't going to release their portion of it in their new gateway until I think they're actually releasing it either yesterday or today at this Dell conference that's going on.
Interesting.
So it was sort of confusing, especially for a guy like me that struggles a little bit with the technical stuff. But the Commander is very versatile. It can be a front end. It can be standalone. You can use it in conjunction with a Jace. It doesn't have any I/O on it, but it's all IP and it's server based. And then they put their graphics into it. And so KMC's approach now is, and with a lot of people, and I think this is taken off where, like Apple did with the new iPhone, it's all flat graphics and stuff like that. And people just want information. So the spinning fan in your VAV box and the coils that are automated and that kind of thing aren't necessarily needed so much anymore. So you can get this template and this flat graphic looking template that's very easy on the eyes and very easy to see. And it gives you this data, and all that's embedded in the Commander. So you're basically just pulling things in. It's got, some haystack naming conventions in it as well too. So you plug this thing up and it works. And so you could tell they were slightly frustrated not being able to come out and say exactly what it is 100%. Michael Bonner actually signed a confidentiality agreement, I'm not joking, and went behind a closed door one at a time, and they got to see it. And there was a guy from Dell sitting there and kind of showing him about it. And I asked Michael about it, and he wouldn't tell me. So whatever it was that he signed was pretty neat. So I'm really antsy to see more about what this is, and I wish I could tell you more about it, but that's just to kind of show you how cool this is and what all they've brought up with Dell and Intel.
Hey, Rob, that's really, really, really interesting. I just happened to, based on your interview with Richard Newberry, I went to their website because, again, they were real proud of. They just introduced a new website. KMC is really stepping up to the plate, and if you go to their website, you'll see that they actually have a video on, KMC Controls Dell partnership. So whatever you're saying, they probably just released this thing because I don't remember seeing this on their website the day before yesterday, but now it shows Richard Newberry and Eric Kruder talking about find your provider with this Dell partnership video. So for all our ControlTrends viewers and listeners, you got to get on this website and check out the videos they put up regarding these things that we're commenting on, and the Commander being one of them. Good stuff. What else did you hear out there?
Well, real quick, I want to comment on the Commander too a little bit, Kenny, because so I think we definitely should put some links there back. Again, hats off to KMC. Now, my understanding of it, Rob, is going to be a very, very flexible controller, and I don't think I'm giving anything away because this is not what it is, but sort of what it will do. Kenny, I think they have targeted this for the race to the small space, a term that you coined, and I think they've got a very, very strong contender with this because it is expandable. But I think it's really targeted for that very small building, to the point that I think it was either Mitch or Eric Kruder were telling me that some of their systems integrators, the price point on this is going to be such that they're looking at actually giving that away if you sign a service agreement, like a 2 or 3 year service agreement. So the price points, we haven't had pricing on it yet, but that sort of gives me some indication of they're going to have a lot of functionality, a lot of new technology in it, a lot of flexibility, and then also it's going to be very, very price competitive. So I think they got a very, very strong player in the race to the small space, Kenny.
I have an inkling that they're going to do even more of it than that because they kept hitting that home, less than 50,000 square foot. This is where it plays, whatever. But then you could see people's, wheels start spinning. They say, well, what about this? What about that? And they would kind of nod their head and say, yeah, I could probably do that too. So it's going to be interesting. And so thanks for pointing that out, that they added that stuff. I'm going to go check that out, actually just right after this.
Yeah,
on the website. And I know that they rolled out. I got a chance to, I think you're going, the next one there is my interview with Matthew McConaughey, Director of Sales from KMC.
He looks like Matthew McConaughey. I got me. Mitch Kehler, Director of Sales, connects with Rob Allen. That's the next post. And I'll tell you what, this is going to be kind of a KMC lopsided, episode here because of the time you spent there and the information being provided there. But this is also a really it's cool to listen to this guy. As you point out, he's a fighter pilot. No, he's a jet pilot, certified or whatever. He flies the KMC corporate jet when necessary. He fills in as a co-pilot or whatever. My friend's a pilot, and people don't realize how much is involved just to get a plane up in the air, especially a modern plane. There's a lot of prerequisites, a lot of checklists going on there. But so he makes them a very interesting aspects, of how he summarizes the new features that KMC's recently deployed. KMC Connect, the time-saving, menu-driven configuration utility, and the KMC Lite, a revolutionary mobile application, both of which were designed to save contractors money and time on every project using new technologies like near-field communication. My first question to you, Rob, would be, what the heck is that, and how's that going to save a contractor money?
Well, there's actually a little mouse inside your phone. I don't know if everybody knew that can run around and do some things for you. No, that's what it sounded like to me at first when they first explained it, was that how the heck is this? But apparently most every Droid in all Apple iPhones are set up now with near field communication, or NFC. And so with the Connect Lite application, you can actually get your controller while it's still in the box, taped up inside it, and you can run your devices and what you want to name them and all that kind of stuff, and you can just set your phone on the label on the box, and it'll start devicing or naming those and assigning them a device ID and that kind of stuff, and then you can do that from box to box to box to box to box. Then, once you power it up, obviously that saves you a ton of time because you're not sitting there having to do that from scratch and you're just, whatever. Then you can actually view your graphics for your NFC. So go up to the wall module, hold your phone up, and then you can see the graphic or get some information off of that wall module right there on your phone. And it's something that's a parameter that you can set in that wall module. and then you can if you need to do a replacement or something like that, you can actually just NFC the controller once it's installed. That'll put the information and upload it. Then you put the new one in. You can download it right from there. So super neat. I mean, that's pretty incredible to think about that.
I'll say. This is all available now. This isn't make believe. This is in the box, ready to sell. So all these things we're talking about are they're already out. And Stromquist, for instance, is distributing these things as we speak. Correct?
Absolutely.
Well, there you go.
I think they're on their they just became released right after the show. We've put our order in, and they're either received in the house or they're on their way.
All right. So we have Richard Newberry. We have Mitch Kehler. Let's transition. And was there anybody else with the KMC that should warrants attention to the ControlTrends community?
So Scott Mitch is a pretty good guy, and so I had some time to spend with him, and he was talking about the stuff because a lot of the Connect and some of the stuff in the Commander. I think there's 5 C's, and so that gives a little bit of a hard time keeping up with them. But then at the same time,
I got him.
I could let me try it. All right, Commander, Connect, Light, Converge, and all right, what's the 5th one?
Conquest.
That's it.
Yes.
So good stuff. But so J2 is teaming up with them, and so it was kind of neat with Scott because I would go back and I'd say, hey, I heard this and I heard this. Can you help me understand what that was? And he put it into layman's terms for me, and a lot of it resonated. But kind of a cool personal thing is Scott actually was hiking through his woods in the backyard a few months ago with his dog, and he was walking across a tree limb, and his leg fell in between 2 tree limbs. I'm not going to go into much more graphic detail than that, except for that he fell in towards the water and he broke his leg in like 5 different places.
Ouch.
And so
Double ouch.
he had to, there was a pretty big ordeal getting him out of the woods and all this kind of stuff. And his neighbors, his poker buddies came and got him. So it was a funny story there. But so anyway, they put his leg all back together, and some of the suggested therapy was to run. So he's going to run his first half marathon here before the end of the year, and he's training for it. And so I heard that and said, well, hey man, how many miles are you going to go run? So I think he had to run 9 that morning as part of his training program, and I can run a little bit, and so I ran 6 of the 9 with him, and we went out and went down the river walk. You get outside of the touristy river walk, and it opens up, and man, we were out there at 7 a.m. putting in our miles, and me and Scott Minch, and talking about all kinds of cool stuff, and watched the sunrise and all that. It was pretty neat.
He's a cool dude. I tell you what, we saw him present in Paris, and I swear I thought Steve Jobs had come back from the grave. He can really present, but maybe get him on 7 Minutes in Control, Rob. We hadn't seen many of those episodes lately.
Yep.
Well, I'll tell you what, you talk about Scott Minch, you talk about cool things. He is the drone meister. He told Eric and I, he showed us some videos when we were at the EZIO conference in Paris that the drone thing, it's just a matter of time for that thing. That just becomes part of, it becomes second nature in our society. I don't know how it's taken this long, especially for emergencies and real critical things like, fire assessments, police support, for so people don't get hurt. You can send a drone into an area where, you can't send people without getting, some kind of a negative consequence. But he showed us some of the races that go on, how cool these are, and he made his own virtual visor. Eric, you remember how he did cameras in there? So he's linked to the camera that's on the actual drone, and he's controlling it using not very expensive parts. These guys are really into putting hardware together. The name of the game is to get as much firepower without spending a whole lot of money, because you break a lot of things. You crash it, you make a lot of mistakes. But wow, he's really good at that. He was probably he was telling us how they got called in by certain agencies for information, being so good and adept at droning that they looked at it from a negative perspective. How like a red hat type of thing. Remember how we talk about cybersecurity? You have white hats, black hats, red hats. Well, he was on an advisory group providing information on some of the vulnerabilities that we don't like to talk about, but are real from drones.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Kenny, what do we have up next, big dog?
Well, we had the next post, Eric, is another interview by guess who?
No, not Rob Allen again.
Well, it begins with an R and the last initials A. It's Rob Allen live with Noesis Vice President of Sales, Jason Putnam. And, I had a very, I listened to this and I went to the websites and whatever, and that's how I see that this is going to become in our economy, and as we get more and more, you just can't get enough help when it comes to some of the negative challenges we have. I mean, we have all these great ideas, and we do have the ability to save people money. And return on investment, we've always been trained very well on how to present that and give people the actual numbers that are very verifiable, so we can save money, give them a return on investment. But some of the things that we're not aware of is that these decision makers aren't just worried about return on investment and savings. They're worried about things like cash flow and the negative impact, so that even though this project doesn't seem like it's going to make an impact, it does. And another thing too is it's just not about money. It's about keeping buildings occupied. So the Noesis software offers tools, unique financing products, top-notch technical and service support to help their partners, which are just about everybody. They deal with contractors, distributors, and building owners. So they tell us a little bit more about that, and then segue into the Mark Jewell part of it. Rob?
Okay, perfect. So Jason Putnam is the VP of Sales for Noesis, and that's part of the EEO program, which I'll tell you about in a second. The really neat stuff we've now got not just a opportunity to get some additional financing to help fund some of these projects. You get a lot of times that you run into it where everybody at the table saying yes, 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 we want this, and then there comes the whole part about paying for it, and that can derail some things really quick. And so Noesis provides us a way to do that that's very cost effective for the end user, and in turn lets us help get some projects out there. So we met with them 4 or 5 months ago, Eric, I think, and told us some different things, and I think that they were angling more for getting relationships with our contractors. And so Eric and I and Michael and some of the folks in the room said, it would really make sense, to have a distributor model, as well too. And so they actually went back to the drawing board, and they're putting the finishing touches. It's about half baked now. And Jason said he hopes to have it rolled out before the end of the year of a distributor model, and how to sign up a distributor and then have those guys go out. And
but it seemed like there was they wanted you to make an investment too, Rob. It seemed like there was like a thing you signed up for, and it wasn't much, but it was $3,000, $5,000, something like that, where you had to sort of make an investment to have access to the tools. And to me, that was kind of backwards, because it seems to me like if we're going to bring them business, because they're going to make the money on the financing, they should be paying us a commission, not the other way around. So there wasn't, as near as I can see, there wasn't really a revenue model for the distributors at the time, just because you were basically going to hook them with your contractors. You were going to pay money to have access to it. They were going to help you, quote unquote, close deals. And that was not sketchy is not the right word, but it was, I didn't see the value in that so much. Maybe they've reconfigured that, because it was like, well, if you guys were going to go in and actually do an energy audit and verify that the savings were going to be there, now that would be something that would be worth, $3,000 a year or whatever. But so that piece didn't kind of resonate with me. The concept of helping people get financing at reasonable rates definitely makes sense, because that could help everybody close the deal. So from a contractor's perspective, having that in your back pocket work. But you've got some integrators that have direct relationships with people already that sort of are handling that directly.
Right. So I sat down with Jack Connell and Jason out at Momentum for, 45 minutes or an hour to discuss this. And Jason was very quick several times to correct me and say, we are not a finance company. That the end game of what we do is not to finance. It's to win projects. And so he put out, his thing was 3 ways to pay, and I'm trying to remember. I know one of them was cash, one of them was financing, and the third one I think was a zero interest, I think is what he was saying. But I remember him saying 3 ways to pay. But the package that they do, because I asked him straight up, said, man, your business model, how are you going to make money? I said, if you go teach us how to do this stuff, and we spend a year with you, and we learn all your tips and tricks and whatever, do we need to sign up, for year 2? And he laughed and said, obviously we've thought about that, but they're up to with industry trends. They know they can be a lead generation source for us as well too. The financing is a is a big part of it, probably the majority of it, but maybe only 2/3 or a little less than that. The rest of it is they'll go on your behalf and and meet with your customer if you want to, and tell their side of the story. And he said it's awesome that you get this third party that comes out, that sits down, that says, yeah, everything that guy is saying makes sense. Oh, and also, boom, boom, boom. So I think it's neat. And the EEO stuff, it's partnered up with those guys. So if you sign up with EEO and you go to send some people to get training, then Noesis is a small part of Noesis is available to EEO contractors, and then you have the option to sign up for the big stuff.
Well, hey, I want to weigh in here real quick, and I want to acknowledge Honeywell for this. Jack Connell, especially.
Jerry, don't forget Jerry.
And Jerry, absolutely. And, we've been through this. I think all our team has been through it. Kenny had mentioned Jewell. Yeah, Mark Jewell. Mark Jewell is awesome. But this is a concept, where Honeywell really listened. They came out with an idea to help us be more successful. Jack and Jerry have just done a fantastic job. So if you have the opportunity to go through this program, if you're a distributor or an integrator, it's a no-brainer. It's great stuff. Mark Jewell is one of the most brilliant guys in terms of, how to sell this stuff. The Honeywell EEO program really positions you to understand the buildings, what motivates the users, how to put together a presentation that's going to win. So I can't say enough good about Jack and Jerry and what they've done.
Well, my fire integrator a little north of us, about an hour and a half, I think you might know who we're talking about a little bit, and got a ton of respect for him. And so he sent a couple folks to EEO, and they came back and said, yeah, it was great, and it was really cool, this Mark Jewell guy. And then I said Mark Jewell, and so it got him interested. So he went and he went to one city where Mark Jewell was, and he sat through a Mark Jewell class. And he came back, and he was almost angry that no one came back and just was like, oh, my God, this was the greatest thing ever, whatever, whatever, whatever. So then Mark was going to be in another city a week from then. He signed up, and I think he sent 6 people to that conference just to listen to Mark, the very next week. So Mark's worth the price of admission for
he
EEO.
really is.
But then you get the tool set and everything else. It's a really good program.
Well, and again, special thanks to Jack Connell and Jerry and Team Honeywell for putting that together, because I think they were the ones who shined the light on, the first people to say, hey, you got to have the product, but you got to be able to sell it. And great job from them.
Eric, just to go deep onto the Honeywell website, they have a great website connection, energy and environmental optimization program. And if you go onto the website, Honeywell, under customer.honeywell.com, you'll see that they really have put a great deal of work into this. And again, we are in an economy that is really, really, really forcing us all to become better salesmen, better engineers, better whatever. But like you said, the tools. Now, if you have financial tools available to give people options, and you have the ability to sell better, it's not all about what we used to always do, and that was save energy, save this, save that. Now we're talking about the approach involves different CEOs. You're talking, I think you're the one that brought it to my attention. I went back to this. There's 8 people in the decision tree. It's just not one person. It's just not the facility manager. It's just not, the COO. It's the guys that all have a stake in it. So, some of the things we talk about intelligent building, you create a dialogue. Well, this is designed to help contractors learn how to identify and capitalize on new opportunities in energy sales. And it's more than just a training course or a software tool. It offers the key insights, the understanding of how corporations work to assess, to come up with techniques and assess, creating the winning proposals that are a lot more complicated than, life used to be. It used to be, if I could prove to you I could save you money and the return on investment was in so many months, hey, we got to sale, we walked out slapping each other in the back and hooray. It's not enough anymore. So that's why I think it's very important to stop and understand that we're part of a process that involves a little bit more than meets the eye. You need some training. It doesn't hurt to invest money to learn how to sell better, and it's very good to go to a recognized Honeywell's program that it's definitely verifiable. And the testimony you guys just gave with Mark Jewell and the other guys, let's go. We need to get people involved to help us buy more controls, right?
Absolutely, Kenny. All right, Big Dog, what do we have up next?
All right, we're coming into the bend here. Smart Building Controls Revolution in India, and this is just so much fun here. And I think this is the the capstone of the global partnership meeting in Paris, where we had people representing 6 continents around the world, and it's just, that's exciting because we've been to some other North American based meetings where, you get people from around the world, but they're just kind of there. They don't participate. Well, this is one where the guys that are there, everybody kind of contributed and did that collaboration thing, shared projects, shared information, so that you get a different sense of understanding of how something works when you talk about a global product. Well, these guys were from India, and why don't you tell us about Vinayak, Sane, and some of the other guys that Vinayak introduces, and how he reverses roles on us.
Well, he sure does. But I tell you what, Rob, so where would you guess the man, the myth, the legend's biggest following is? India. He's
Pittsburgh.
revered in India, right? So I tell you what, it was great. But we met Vinayak and several others at the EZIO conference last year in Madrid. We followed back with him again this year. Vinayak has done a great job. He is one of a consultant and an integrator out of Mumbai. And Kenny will tell you that I think they've got $400 billion slated for smart city upgrades, and these guys are right at the forefront of it. And so Vinayak does a great job. He interviewed. He's done some stuff from us from Mumbai before, where he's come on and been on Control Talk. You can see him in previous episodes, but this was just great. So he interviewed some of the integrators that were there from India at the EZIO conference. It's a great video where you can sort of check it out and get a feel and a flavor for sort of what's going on there. And he did interview one American luminary that he normally wouldn't do that, but this guy was so famous that he had to bring him on. So anyway, yeah. So he interviewed Kenny, but it was a really, really great interview by Vinayak. And I tell you what, Kenny, I want to segue in because we had some special guests in this week. Our friend Samir Prada and his associate colleague Samita were in, and they were touring around. We set some stuff up. They visited some different facilities. We had different people come in and talk to them, but talk about just very, very bright people that are on the cusp. And Kenny, you had a chance to talk to Samir as well. So what are some of your thoughts on not just him, but Vinayak, the Indian market, the whole 9 yards, if you will, the whole
kit and caboodle.
The whole kit and caboodle. There you go. Not enchilada. That's for the next post.
Well, I tell you, Eric, we've pride ourselves in trying to keep up with the trends, and one of the most gigantic trends was the 100 Smart City Initiative launched by the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi. And how they're not messing around. They set aside $400 billion. I mean, we actually have emissaries and ambassadors from United States, economic ambassadors from England, France, Italy. I was over in England, France, and read about that. In other words, what they're proposing to do is really and truly, India is one of the most rapidly, if not the most rapidly emerging market in the world, and they're consuming resources, but they want to do them in such a way that provide for the future, and they've got to integrate so many of these remote cities. The 100 Smart Cities is not just about the big Mumbai-sized cities. These are about small, remote areas that need power, and probably the greatest hindrance that they're facing as an emerging economy is consistent power. They have, utilities, one problem after another. So they're extending their hands and saying, if you've got something important that we can use, which certainly this is a great time to present it. And that's why EZIO did such a marvelous job of bringing these people on board. What Samir, he brought it down to probably a level now that I can really understand it and relate to it business-wise. I mean, we're talking about, an area where so many people have come into this opportunity and fallen a sword, that the assumption that the incumbents in there already have everything wrapped up is incorrect. The assumption that there's everybody's trained and ready to go is incorrect. The assumption should be made that if you really and truly have entrepreneurial spirits and designs, that you can work with people that are reaching out and really get something accomplished. And it's very meaningful. Not only is it economically a smart thing to do, but we're all learning from it, because if it works there, it's going to work other places. So I think India is taking the lead in many regards, because money always drives the train. And we have so many programs that are starving. We can't get funding for it. If we could really get something done. But we're in the opposite end of that, economic seesaw. They've got the money and are looking for technology and support. We have technology and support. We're looking for funding. So that's interesting. But I thought that the roles that different manufacturers will play here will be the leadership of the next 5 to 10 years. We talked about that pivot point when we look back. I think whoever can come in and help solve some of these issues and really bring the dovetail all of the things together. And again, everybody thinks it's going to be the incumbents. The bigger the name, the bigger the play, and we're hearing that that's kind of happened to a certain extent, but that's really not that's not what's going to solve India's problem. They need people, they need manufacturers, and American manufacturers have a great opportunity to reach out to these markets. And leadership is coming from like Samir Pradham of CICC, and we as ControlTrends intend to get deeply immersed in this using our contacts in India.
Tell you what, India is a beautiful, beautiful country, and again, special thanks to Vinayak and all our friends in India, and we have a big following in India, Kenny, when we look at the stats. So to all our viewers in India, thank you so much. We appreciate all of you, and hope to see all of you in the United States, and hopefully we'll come to India sometime and see you real soon.
Threw me off there earlier when you asked about where the big following was, because I get a call a week from India. If somebody see me off ControlTrends wanting to know if we could do this or do that, or what's my thoughts on this or whatever. So, definitely we got ControlTrends is a big following in India.
Yeah, and we're kind of all around the world, which sort of brings me to the last post, Kenny, and we got to wrap it up because Rob's got to get on his horse and ride here. His wife's never going to let him come back again. Last post, going again, ControlTrends around the world. We head to Mexico. We actually did this interview last week, but my audio was so bad we redid it. We reposted it with MR Soluciones out of Mexico City. Big systems integrator there. These guys very articulate. Alfredo, Melnik, and Carlos Roman. So thanks again, guys, for that. So we reposted just their interview portion. Please check that out. Another burgeoning market, and one of the funny things, Kenny, that we sort of hear that's universal across the world. It's kind of like we ask, what's the number one thing your customers ask of you, and they all start off with, we want a better price, but we talk them off that ledge. So
that was kind of cool. I got such a kick out of it, because it was so genuine and so honest. Yeah, it was a great post, and those two guys again. I have this thing now, this common denominator, this common denomination, this common currency, and that's buildings. Because when we got to talk to those guys and really find out what the most fundamental problems and issues were, we have the same problems, and that is protocols, proprietariness, where they get handcuffed and they can't deliver the end product, the end solution. That they've been hampered, and what they really want to do now is have autonomy and get the chance to put technology to work for them because they have such a gigantic market. We heard things where only 30% of the buildings in metropolitan areas around the world actually have reliable building automation and building management systems. 30%. So that means that 70% of the buildings are need help. So when we talk about thriving, industries, when we talk about what people should learn how to do, what technical training people should get, I'm telling you that the HVAC industry represents probably one of the best opportunities for young people to get in, learn the service work, learn some kind of an IT-related, product to do with building automation, HVAC, because it's never, ever going to go away. Just like we're getting ready for another cold season here in the North, American area, so we got to have heating, and it's not like we want it; it has to happen. So, there seems to be a general shortage of people in Mexico, in India, North America, that people don't want to get, young people don't see the light bulb that this is a great opportunity. It's a great way to make a living. It's very important. You service your own family, you service your own towns, communities, you service your own countries. You learn a trade, learn an HVAC trade, and it'll pay off.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why he is the man, the myth, the legend. Well said, Kenny Smyers. That's going to wrap it up for another week on Control Talk Now for the weekend on October 18th. 2015. Special thanks to our guest, Rob Allen from 7 Minutes in Control, and to all our sponsors for the ControlTrends Awards. We'll see you next week on Control Talk Now. Remember, stay in control.
Indeed, Eric.
Indeed, Kenny Smyers.
Did Rob kick day? I didn't see Rob.
Rob did it.
Missed it. Doggone it.
Here we go, fellas.
Alrighty.
We booked in.
A shout out, and I got a call out. My shout out goes to my good buddy and cohort, Michael Bonner, who reluctantly got on the good side of the camera with me, and we did some recaps out at both of the conferences, and did a heck of a good job. I appreciate that. And my call out goes to the star, better known as David Witherspoon, who promised me an interview out in Palm Springs, and I didn't know that a guy with that broad of shoulders and that kind of movement could be so agile, man. That guy was bobbing and weaving all over the place. So Witherspoon, you're going to be a 7 minutes of control. You're going to be a Control Talk Now. Something, you owe me something. I know you're a man of your word, and I know you're not going to dodge me. So we're coming for you one way or the other.